Hi again, it's Chris from Stamp Blessings, and today is my virtual open house. So I had a catalog walkthrough at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. You can always go back and find me by looking for this hashtag. I've started tagging my posts, and it is hashtag Chris VOH 2023, and that's for my virtual open house. I'm having prizes, and there's ways to earn tickets. This is also posted, and I'll go back and make sure I tag it. But every time you comment or share this, tag a friend, you'll get entries into my drawing. Leave a comment on any of the posts. You can leave more than one comment for sure. I'll be sharing shortly a catalog game. And then, of course, if you sign up for my newsletter or you're already signed up, you get 3 tickets there. And we've got some great grand prizes, including a $20 stamp set, your choice. This cute magic gnome petite perk, he is only available for demos, actually, and I'm going to share him with you. And then third prize is some bling. So I hope you check it out, and I appreciate it when you do like my posts, because then that gets a little bit visibility out there. So at 2 o'clock I shared a Stamp of the Month project, and now I'm going to focus on this beautiful holiday banner. But before I do, I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about this stencil that's kind of in that whole line. This is actually an embossing folder, and it has such a great look. So you can use it, just like that, or you can come back if you get the stencils and add some colors like this. So that's going to be just perfect. It's a fun thing, but it is a little bit time consuming. So this is the least time consuming, and then this adds on a little more time. I wanted to share you a tip though that I have for the stencils, because these are a 3 stencil pack. And what can happen is you spend a lot of time trying to turn the stencil, flip it right side to back side, and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm wasting so much time. So what I like to do with mine is I get out a pretty nail polish, and I mark just the top corner, and it has a little bit of a bump, so you'll know then that that's the side you want up. So I'm going to get down a little bit closer because I have trifocals. So, I amped it up, and I'm kind of regretting the trifocal part. I think I would have been better just with the bifocal aspect, but here we go. Let's try this. So I've pre-lined them up to just make sure that this is the way I want them. Yep. And I'm going to take the top layer, and I'm going to put just a little dot, and hopefully I am, still on camera. And I'm going to just put a little dot like that, and then set it aside so that I don't step on it. The other thing is this does help you find them a little bit easier, because gosh darn it, I have spent hours sometimes looking for stencils. So during our last sale just now, Amy mentioned that she buys our 6x6 albums with the page fillers, and that's where she stores her stencils. So guess what? I bought the page fillers, but I forgot to buy the album on the sale. So that'll be on my next order going in. All right, and now I'm going to touch this last one and find a good spot. And I just have a little bit of a dot. Perfect. So I just wanted to share that little tip for you before I get into my card making. Now it's going to smell like nail polish around here. Whew. Sorry, I went quiet there. I had to find a safe spot to put it so I don't step in it, because that would be my luck. All right, so this stamp set, Holiday Banner, is in the new Close to My Heart September, October. This catalog is lovely in that it features a lot of fall, but also a lot of Christmas. So a lot of times, we come a little bit late to market with the holiday and you're itching to get started, especially if it's a little bit more time consuming. So right now I'm going to share with you a kind of a fun technique that, and also a clean and simple look. So this is the card that I made using the stamp set and the thin cut dies where I cased the catalog. And honestly, because I didn't have to color it, it was still pretty fast, but you do have to run these different pieces through the die cutting machine, and I did some embossing and I sanded this background. So I found a way to make a really clean and simple card. And this was inspired by something that I had seen on Instagram, but a whole just different set, and I kind of just went with it. So that's what we do, right? So how I'm going to get started is I cut a panel of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I could have worked directly to my card front, but I don't know. I like to work with a card panel. For me, it's just easier. So I'm going to set this up here for our inspiration. And then I'm going to just go ahead and use this scrap piece of paper so that I don't have to keep changing out this pad. Could also just work on here. I need to get used to this. I just unwrapped this for the video and I've had it for years, ever since I signed up. So I'm going to start first with the believe sentiment because I want to get that down so that I make sure that I have room for that saying. For this set, I did buy the thin cut dies. I don't always, because I don't mind fussy cutting, but I knew it would make it a little bit faster and easier. Plus with that banner die, it's just kind of cool that way. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put my stamp on my block. And if you haven't used them before, the way you can season it is to rub it against your skin. You can rub it against your pants or a legging. Or another tip that I've received is to stamp it first in clear Versamark ink and then whatever ink you're going to ink up. I've already used this stamp, so it's going to be easy to use. And I'm going to just ink it up. And I'm using New England Ivy, which is recently retired, but we have some other dark greens that are just really nice. But if you've been with Close to My Heart for a while and have bought some of their inks, you might have this one on hand. Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and stamp that believe. And again, I like to just walk my fingers for a minute to let that ink soak from the stamp into the paper. If you're watching, I'm curious, have you already started your holiday cards or are you a procrastinator? I tend to be a procrastinator unless I'm getting ready for a card class. So this is probably pretty amazing for me. I'm going to go ahead and set this stamp aside. And the next thing I want to use is I'm going to use Scarlet ink for the poinsettia. And so I'm going to put this in the middle. And earlier I shared about my stamp chamois. I showed you a new one. Aha. This is what they look like new. And this is what they look like well loved. And you can use them and wash it out with a little bit of, I use like a little dishwashing liquid sometimes. I do let it dry out in between uses because that way it'll keep it from getting moldy. And then when you unwrap it to get it wet, you want to make sure you get it wet before you try and unfold it. Because if it's dry and crispy, because it will get crispy, you want to make sure that it's wet. So some of you are preparing Christmas cards. Some of you are doing, it looks like Halloween cards. Whoa. So fun. We're kind of probably, and you might flip-flop back and forth. So I'm going to have this handy because I tend to get ink where I don't want it. And so that will help me hopefully avoid a disaster. I say hopefully very loosely. I'm going to just move this aside so I don't have to kind of rethink the placement. I lay my stamps on their back and then I ink up. And again, I'm using Scarlet. Love these Close to My Heart ink pads. You probably noticed, what's the difference? This is the old style. This has been out of production for at least 3 or 4 years. This is the new magnetic ink pads, and they're really quite large. So they're like 1, 2, 3, 4 inches by 3. They're great. Love them. All right, so I inked that up, and I'm going to put my first poinsettia about there. Again, letting it go over. And I'm going to stamp it 2 more times. Okay. We have a new ink that came out called Rosie, and that has replaced the raspberry. But I have not gotten our new ink pads yet. That'll be something that I need to work on. But for now, I'm going to just use raspberry because I found that the candy apple for my next step was just a little bit too dark. Okay, I'm going to stamp that poinsettia 1 more time. All right. So the next step is kind of fun. It's messy, but it's fun. And what it is when you have a stamp image like this, you can flip it around on the block and use the reverse as your new stamp. So I'm just going to go ahead and flip it, and it's sticking pretty nicely. Actually, because it's a little bit wet and I just washed it, I'm going to take it and dry it off on my legging for just a second because I don't want it to fall down on me. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of go like that and pick it up. Great. All right. Angle this. I didn't mention it before, and I'm kind of scatterbrained. I feel like sometimes I'm a squirrel. Oh, look, I'm not. Because I just looked up and I saw my website and I thought, oh, I didn't mention it. If you need anything from Close to My Heart, I would love it, appreciate it if you did go to my website. If you just Google Close to My Heart, you're going to go to a paid website and it's hard to find me. But if you put in chrisfranco.closetomyheart.com, it'll take you to my website and you'll see my name at the top. I do send out thank you notes belatedly, about a month, 2 months after, with a little thank you in it. And I also automatically enter you to win my Mystery Hostess rewards. So earlier today, I pulled 2 winners, and they each get to pick out $25 in products. So it's kind of fun. Now, I am stamping up in the raspberry, but that's a lot of ink. And I'm not worried about getting 100% coverage because I want kind of a, kind of a mottled look. And I'm going to stamp off 1 more time because I don't want it too dark. Look how dark that would be. And now this is the tricky part only. Oh, I got it. Woohoo! You're going to go over and you want to find kind of like the right petal point. Okay. And I'm not going to go down too hard because I don't want it to be, too saturated. But look how cool that is. I went over the petals. I kind of instantly colored it. It is wider, obviously, than the stamped image, but that's all part of the look. So I'm going to keep doing that. I have to do that 2 more times. Go like that. Let's see. I kind of look for these longer ones, right? And there's 2 of those. So it's going to be either this way. Yeah, I think that's it. And so when I stamped this originally, I wasn't paying attention which way I was going. Had I probably been, minding it, I would have gone, okay, boom, boom, boom. Then I could have, once I set it up, I would have been ready to go. But that's okay. It's all part of it. All right. And then this last one, I think that's it. Yep. I think I got a little bit less ink on that one, but yeah, I did. But I'm okay with that. I could go in a little bit and just add a little bit more, but I think it'll be fine. So on mine, what I was disappointed was that I didn't have like a way to color in the center because I wanted the center to pop. So what I did is that's where I got out my stencil. So hopefully that nail polish has dried, and let me go grab my stencil. This is one of the panels that has the little circles for the center. So I'm going to lay that over my poinsettia and then just take a brush. And I was going to bring up Harbor, but I managed to leave that downstairs, I believe. Yeah, I did. So I'm going to go with the New England ivy, because I think black, it might be okay, but it would also like destroy my brush right now. So we'll just make do. And this one here, I used Harbor. Okay, so I'm going to line up my stencil with that first little circle, and I'm just going to go around. Yeah, that's going to be fine. And that gives me just a little bit of color, little detail right there in the middle. And then I'm going to go ahead and do that 2 more times. Just go around with a brush. And 1 more time up here. Perfect. All right. Close up this old style ink pad. But I don't get rid of anything. I'm so bad. And I'm going to go ahead and clean this stencil off before I put it away. And I just can use my stamp chamois for that, and boom. All right, so this looks okay. I did manage to get a little dot of red there, but don't look too closely. But next I wanted to get a little bit more splattering. And on my last card, I did some splattering too. This time I'm going to use the actual ink to match this believe. So I have New England ivy. There's 2 ways to do ink splattering from an ink pad. You can first push in your ink pad, and you could do it with these as well because they do push. And then you're gonna look and see, you know, you get a little bit of ink and you can make a little puddle. But remember these great re-inkers that I said we have, and they're so ginormous. They're like 3 inches. There's 2 inches of that and then 1 inch of the lid. But I'm going to take a dot and just put that in my lid. And that's another way that I can get the same color to match. So I'll get my brush, my water brush that's got some water in it, and I'll add some water and get it kind of wet and juicy. And now move everything out of the way and start to splatter. And I get a little bit more because I don't want it to be too light. There you go. I want a little bit down there. So there you go. I think on this last one I added a couple of dots too to make them bigger, but that's the nice thing. You can just kind of touch your brush to it where you want it and add a little bit more. All right. So now I've added a little bit of extra interest, but look at that. I have no layers. Now, if this is kind of just too boring for you, remember how I said Close to My Heart has the best bling? Well, you could add 1 or 2 little of these on there, and that would really make it sparkle. The last thing I have to do is just mount this now to my card base, and I already have that prepared. And this time I have glue. So my last video I had to just do kind of like a dry layout, which is what I have my kindergartners do before they glue. Like when we do a sort, just so that they know that they got in the right spot. This is going to be handy for my black mat now. I can see that I'm going to be able to line this up so much easier than if I was just white on white. And why I like to use glue these days is because it allows me to just shift and move this around for just a moment until I get it exactly where I want. So there you go. We made a really clean and simple card using this beautiful holiday banner set and just one big sentiment, believe. And that was a pretty fast card. Well, I hope this inspired you. Be sure to like my video, leave a comment. I will be getting back and answering afterwards. I'm kind of on tiptoe to see. Melissa said, nice tip to use the reverse side of the stamp. So thank you for that. And I will be back at 4 o'clock with a fun card using Close to My Heart's irresistible cardstock. And I can't wait to share how cool that is. All right, see you then.